Hey guys, Austin Cozette here. I was gonna hop on here today and talk about cold weather. It's actually been kind of cold down here in South Georgia. I know it's been really cold up in the north in some areas, but some of this might be obvious. Some of it just could be a confirmation on some things, and maybe you will learn some things too. So I guess first off here, I'm gonna go over how the body produces heat in 5 different ways. First is through resting and exercise metabolism. Second is shivering. Third is heat producing chemicals. Fourth is hormones. 5 is tissues. So speaking of that, the body also gains heat via 3 mechanisms: radiation, conduction, and convection. As far as the metabolism, metabolism refers to the body's source of internal heat production. Metabolism also represents the sum total of all chemical reactions in the body. Most of the energy exchanges during metabolism produce heat as well. During exercise, heat production is substantial. These 3 principal mechanisms produce heat: voluntary exercise, involuntary shivering, which is muscle contraction, and biochemical heat production as well. Shivering, I know most people probably know what shivering means, but I can kind of give you guys the exact definition here on kind of what it does. In the cold, shivering is the primary mechanism for heat production. Maximal shivering can increase the body's heat production by up to 5 times that of resting in a neutral environment. Real quick, gonna read off kind of a long sentence here. Might have some big words here too that I might have a little bit of a issue saying here. But as far as the heat generating hormones and chemicals and tissues here, increased thyroxine secretion, I think that's correct, from the thyroid. This releases from the sympathetic nervous system, and adrenaline secretion from the adrenal glands also increase metabolic rate. Chemicals called uncoupling proteins cause cells to release energy as heat, instead of using it to produce usable energy, or storing it also as fat. Also, these uncoupling proteins are particularly plentiful in brown fat, located primarily in the upper torso and neck regions. So this is an important issue also tissue for weight control as well. Brown fat is a special kind of fat cell that generates heat and burns calories instead of storing energy. So again, these uncoupling proteins cause cells to release energy as heat instead of using it to produce usable energy or storing it as fat. So next, this will kind of lead into heat loss a little bit, kind of talk about the 4 ways the body loses heat, but this will kind of be a little bit of a story or a topic for another time. Really quick, we'll try to get into kind of how the cold weather affects humans, what's kind of important there. It's super important for humans to maintain a near constant body temperature, so not too hot, not too cold, because even small changes in body temperature could lead to illness, poor performance. This can even kind of lead back to even stuff that I've made in the past in the summer, kind of being careful with going from really hot conditions into really cold water, like at Loretta's and stuff like that, trying to limit the stress on the body there. Like, humans are mammals, so we must maintain a near constant body temperature. Thermoregulation plays such an important role in the body's heat balance and mechanisms. A lot of that's kind of more important in the hotter weather situations, kind of another topic there. Kind of verging back over to the cold weather side of things here. So it can be evident when, if you're a football fan or something, you can see how the cold causes problems for athletes here, as it can be seen watching football in the snow. So you can kind of see how cold can impair the finger dexterity needed for catching and throwing. It effectively affects the hand sensory receptors. So they can be susceptible to frostbite, obviously. Wearing the correct type of clothing is important during cold weather activity as well. So we'll kind of go over that briefly too. Which with frostbite, I guess can be different stages of it in a way, but it's usually accompanied by paler, numbness, or a loss of cold sensation. We'll kind of go back over the clothing aspect of it. Obviously, some of this is probably going to be a little bit obvious, and I'm obviously not a clothing expert here on this stuff, but I guess trying to get y'all to kind of understand here. So, like, the insulation value of the clothing must be balanced with the increased metabolic heat production of the activity that you're doing. So as I said, clothes are valuable in the cold because they increase the body's insulation, as that kind of goes in a little bit together there. But clothing entraps warm air next to the skin and decreases heat loss by conduction, conducting and convection. So the best clothing for exercise in cold allows for evaporation of sweat while providing added thermal protection from the cold. So typically the clothing should be worn in layers. That's kind of the best because it can be removed as a physical activity. Increases metabolic heat production as well. So I guess lastly here, to kind of get my point across as to kind of why I was saying all this, is unlike heat, there is no acclimatization to the cold. So it says right here, athletes cannot expect any significant acclimatization to the cold and must wear proper clothing to prevent hypothermia and frostbite. So that's kind of why proper clothing and all this I mentioned about cold weather is important. I know some of it kind of seemed a little bit obvious, maybe it was a little obvious, but still kind of confirm some things, or kind of gets it in y'all's brain, kind of ponder on it a little bit, kind of give y'all some definitions on how some of the things work. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you guys for listening, and hopefully this maybe helped a little bit.